And so at this time, I'd like to welcome Simon Feist. And Simon, would you like to start off your presentation?
Sure. So I'm Simon Feist, and I did photography for my Genius Hour project. I feel like this quote by Alfred Eisenstedt really inspired me to try new things when I was doing photography. And this is a lightning picture from last July that we caught off our front porch. And I feel it's just inspired me to try new things. And so my original goal was to be able to turn pretty decent photos like this one here into pretty great photos like this one here. And it's really, the only difference is the left one was automatic settings and the right one was manual settings. And so a lot of it was just learning how to do easy stuff like that and just to make it pop and be more vibrant. I know, while this was a really fun journey, I do think that next year I'll pursue something like Photoshop or different aspects of photography just to learn more about different things. So I feel like the most important lesson I learned is that it's not really what you see in the photo that matters, it's what you don't see that matters. And this is just leaving the shutter open as cars drive by to catch their taillights downtown during one of my photography classes. And another lesson I learned at my photography class was that perspective is all of it. And these pictures are just from really high up or really low to see the different perspectives of an image. And my only regret is that I didn't take quite as many photos as I was hoping to. I was hoping to hit the 15,000 mark by the end of my Genius Hour, but I didn't quite get all the way there. So I wish I would have had a little more time to practice, but COVID kind of put a kink in everything. So in the journey, there were a couple of problems I faced. Some of my models wouldn't stay put. They'd kind of knock over stuff and really not cooperate. Yes, you, Alistair. They also didn't like to get along very well. They'd bite and scratch each other. And so that was definitely a difficult part. My mom compared it to trying to take pictures of toddlers. So yeah, and a lot of my photos, it's when you get home, you realize that they're either way too light and overexposed, or they'll be way too dark and underexposed. But you never really know until you look at them and see what you can do differently for next time. So a couple of lessons I learned throughout this is that you can do some really cool things. This was another thing from my photography class where as the shutter is open, we just zoomed out and you can see that the street lights created blurs and the zigzag is caused from when I paused. And here's where I used a bit of Photoshop to just make the subject stand out a little more by keeping them in color and turning the background black and white. We learned panning also in my photography class, which is where you move the camera parallel to the moving subject so that the subject stays in focus compared to, well, the background is blurred compared to the background being in focus and the subject being blurred like a standard photo would be. Here are some sunset pictures we took up at 5 Mile, just using a tungsten white balance to make the sky a little more blue compared to the orange it would normally be. And here's using editing to just bring out the purples and blues and oranges to turn this sunset into a really colorful image. And that's my presentation.
Oh, thank you, Simon. What a learning experience. And at this time, I will have my video open and so will Simon. Simon, I must say, I am so impressed. How many photography classes have you taken? Is it just this year?
Yeah, I just did this one, and I think, how many times? I think there were like 5 sessions.
Oh my heavens. And how long have you had an interest in photography?
About since probably end of last school year.
So this is a new passion and you want to continue it forward?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, I'd like to open it up for comments, questions for Simon. And if you put your cursor over the raise your hand, then I can call on you. Okay, Mason?
Are you going to continue to take photos?
Could you hear that?
No, I did not hear that.
Mason, could you restate it?
Are you going to continue to take photos and do photography?
Will you continue, Simon, with taking pictures?
Probably.
Yeah, very good. Any other comments?
I have a question. This is Tristan. Do you see like photography as like a outlet that you could possibly have a career in, or is it more just like a hobby that you'd rather keep on
Probably
the
just
side?
more like a hobby.
Mm.
Yeah, probably just more like a hobby.
I don't see any other ones. If you have, yeah. Okay, anybody else have anything to say?
We have a question. This is Carolyn and Chris. And can you hear us?
Yes.
Yeah, I can.
So you took almost 12,000 photos, which is a lot.
Yeah, that's from last July, yeah.
Where do you store them and how do you decide how long you're going to keep them all?
I store them on Google Photos, so it's all in the cloud. I just keep all of them.
Do you have an organizational system? So if you need to find photo number 100?
Yeah, I put them in albums like based on when I took them and stuff. So this weekend I added another 500 photos from a weekend camping trip with some friends. So those all go in different albums based on what they are.
Thank you.
Thank you. I don't hear or see any other questions or comments. Simon, best of luck as you move forward with your photography. You're an amazing skill already, and maybe this summer will allow more time with your camera. So thank you very much, and have a great day. You've worked hard. The next person up will be Mason Foster, and we'll be doing a Westcott, and we will start in about 2 minutes, or about, let's just go 1 minute. And I do want to remind everybody, I am recording this from the very beginning, and I'm still looking to make sure that I don't miss any hands when you raise them. We have quite a few people on. Okay, so Mason, would you like to go ahead and put your video on and your mic, and let's test it? And I'd like to meet you. Hi, Mason. I'm Kathy.
Hi, I'm Mason.
We'll get. Okay. Is everything working for you, Mason?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you well.
Okay.
Okay.
Do you want me to share my screen?
Yes, let's try that out.
Okay.
Oh, yep, it works. Okay. Okay, at this time, let's go ahead and welcome Mason Foster, and you'll be presenting a Westcott project. Welcome.
Thank you. So I'm Mason Foster, and I did my Westcott project on Costa Rica. So Westcott is basically, it's based off of Disney World's Epcot. It was meant to be built where modern day California Adventure is, but it was never made. It basically showcases the world in a much smaller area, hitting the major countries and the major highlights. My country of interest was Costa Rica. It has a population of around 5.09 million people. Major religions are Catholic and different types of Christian. Major languages are Spanish and native languages in English. The first step was to design a pavilion. My main story and theme was the beauty of nature. This is my layout to the left. Number 1 is the main restaurant. Number 2 is the gift store. 3 is the snack shack. 4 is the ride entrance and waiting area. Number 5 is the ride building, where the ride is housed. And number 6 is sort of like a volcano in the center that attracts attention to this land. So I was going for a jungle plant and tree design because Costa Rica is mainly sort of a jungle and forest area. So all the trees are very green and colorful. The architecture is a mix of sort of overgrown buildings and modern sort of. So there's lots of signs and lots of trees and lots of plants like growing over everything. And the signs are painted on the sides of buildings, stuck to trees, and sometimes faded. My menu to the left has 5 items and descriptions. As I go down the list, you can see smoothie, fresh fruits, chocolate bars, because there's lots of chocolate grown in Costa Rica, cooked plantains, and agua dulce. Some of the sounds that you would hear along the jungle would be water running from a river, different birds chirping, because there's lots of birds in Costa Rica, and other natural sounds like trees rustling, that sort of thing. The main pavilion has birds chirping, distant animal noises, faint noises of people rustling through the crowds, and sort of murmurs and stuff to make 100 people in this area feel like 300. This is my mood board to the left. So the story of what I was going for is that there was an old plantation that was abandoned and then recovered later. And they are trying to rebuild this place, and so all the buildings are overgrown, and there's lots of nature everywhere. So there's bushes and trees and plants and everything. The next step was to design an attraction based off this theme. So we had to make a dark ride. So dark ride is an indoor amusement ride on which guests experience a story through various scenes within a show building. That's the given definition. Everything is controlled, like the lights, the sounds, the smells, everything. So these are the examples to the left. We have Dinosaur, Pirates of the Caribbean, and Test Track. Then I had to brainstorm ideas for, Sorry about that. Then I had to brainstorm ideas for how to make a ride. So I chose a river ride because there's lots of rivers in Costa Rica. It'll be a mix between sort of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride and the Navi River ride. So it gets that calming area and the thrill. Then we had to create a storyboard. My main thing was river ride through the history of Costa Rica. The ride started with jungle at night and then went through the day and the history and ended with the jungle at dusk, sort of wrapping up the whole story. My ride system is a dugout canoe, but it needed to accompany more people than a dugout canoe. So it had to be wider and longer to fit all 8 people. It's on a sort of a rail system, though it floats freely within loose constraints, so that way it feels like it's just going down the river, but it's really on a rail system. This is my ride layout and testing. So these are statistics off to the right of how many people an hour, the ride duration, dispatch intervals, which is how long it takes for people to load into the ship and off, and the car capacity, which is 8 people. There's 7 scenes, this is my scale model. In the center here, we have the picture of the whole model. So it starts with the top left, where you load onto the boat, and then goes down the river through this jungle scene. And then through where you can see there's like a native village, and then over to where the natives are sort of seeing the ships off in the distance where the colonists are coming in. Then it goes to where the colonists have sort of invaded the land where the natives have been and taken over. And then where the colonists start to rebuild and start farming and cultivating the land to where modern Costa Rica is today, and then back into the jungle. I learned a lot of lessons, but the most important things were about the native nature, so the animals and the plants and the trees. Everything was very interesting and important to me to learn about Costa Rica, as well as the native population, because that's where the whole land came from. If I hadn't learned about them, I wouldn't know how it came to be today. I had a lot of challenging moments, especially with the pavilion layout and the model, though I just went step by step and solved these problems and checked off each scene, everything bullet point on the list, and it actually worked out really well. And those were also my successes, the model and the layout for the pavilion, because I worked a lot of time on them, and I rebuilt them and remade them and spent a lot of work and time on them, and that's why they turned out so well. I would like to thank Mr. Melka for coming up with this idea and inspiring me, my parents, and my brother for helping me with the layout and the model, and my grandparents for telling me about Costa Rica. Thank you for listening. Are there any questions?
Well, first of all, thank you so much, Mason. I want to go to your theme park ride, and I'm looking at this. I've not been familiar with Westcott projects, and is this something that you could foreseeably go to a theme park and present a proposal? I mean, do you see yourself as a designer for in the future for theme parks or special events?
That'd be kind of fun to do with like Imagineering with Disney and stuff. That would be a very interesting job to have. And maybe, I'm not sure though.
Yeah, very creative. Well done, and I'll take questions or comments. And just put your hand over, you can raise your hand. I'm not seeing anything. If I'm missing anyone, please just unmute yourself and make your comment or your compliment. I was most impressed with your models, Mason. Very intuitive. Do we have any comments?
I have a comment. Again, it's Carolyn Woodwell. The hand doesn't work for me. It doesn't. You can't see it when I put do my hand. So I'll just speak.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Okay. What a beautiful job. Thank you. Have you ever been to Costa Rica?
I have never been to Costa Rica, but my grandparents have went there and they told me about like all the plants and animals and stuff there.
Oh, great. Nice job.
Very well done.
Thank you.
If the hand is, yeah, I'm not seeing hands. Oh, here, Jeannie. I see you.
Who was your mentor?
We didn't really have mentors for Westcott, but if I had to have a mentor, I'd probably say probably my mom and dad, because they helped me with like the model and stuff and about Disney and things.
Okay. And also really nice job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jeannie.
I have a question. It's Regan. So in the beginning, did you have any ideas you were debating on for a place to do? Like, did you have Costa Rica as an option and any other options?
When I found this the morning that we got to choose our countries, I immediately thought somewhere coastal because I like jungles, you know, coastal areas, and I had heard about Costa Rica and that it was a really cool place, so I decided to just do Costa Rica.
Cool.
I'm looking at my chat room, Mason, and we have a good job, Mason, and way to crush it, Mason. That was from Matt, and so I'll try to keep looking at that as well. Any other questions? Mason, thank you so much. I think you have a future in park designs, so keep thinking. You're very, very creative. And at this time, I'm going to stop and let Everett Julesen get ready for his presentation. Okay, Everett, do you want to test your mic and your video? Hi there, young man.
Hi. Yeah.
Okay, can you get it? I can see you really well, so that's good. And I'm not sure why I don't see outside hands that are raised, but yeah, well. Okay, we'll start in about 30 seconds. I'd like to let everyone know that we are recording continuously through the presentations. And I appreciate that you are having your mic and your video on mute, except for the presenter. And then I will cut out as soon as Everett starts. And I'm looking, I don't think if anyone's having trouble, you can chat to me. Okay. All ready to go, Everett? I will.
Yeah.
Okay, up next is Everett Juleson.
Okay. My name is Everett Jolson, and my spring genius hour project was building a book exchange. The materials I used were paint, books, and then some people who were my teachers, my parents, and my sister. I used black, red, yellow, and white paint colors, and the brand of paint I used was Sherwin-Williams. I just because I saw people do it, and I wanted to try myself. I also wanted to learn how to build new things. What have I learned? The most important thing I learned was quarantine gives you more time to think about your project and do your project. What I would do different next time is on the shelves I would have labels, the genre of the book, so people will know what type of book they are choosing. My objectives for this project were to find a purpose for used books, to share with my community, find some new books to read for myself and my family, and to reduce waste. I probably won't continue this for my next Genius Hour project because I don't think I'll build another one, and I want to try new things. I had a great time building my book exchange. Can't wait to try it out. Yeah. Any questions?
Everett, thank you so very much. You know, my first question was, can we use it on the St. George's campus when ours falls apart on the story trail? I like how you have it really enclosed. Ours is, so you think you might ever be interested in making a new one for us when ours is falling apart?
Yeah.
Okay, good. Very, very clever. And you know what? I know you love books, and I think this is a perfect Genius Hour project for you. I'll open it up to questions or comments. And Jeannie.
Okay, so where did you get these books?
I got most of them from my house because we have a lot of books that we don't really use anymore.
Yeah.
Okay.
Everett, Mackenzie says, great job, Everett. I love the project. So she's popping on and off on all of these. I don't see any other hands. If you would have a comment or a question, please just unmute yourself. I'll go over here to the participants. Let's see if I'm missing anybody. No? Anybody else would like to add a comment or a question, compliment? Everett, I loved it, and I am so proud that you started it, finished it, and navigated the journey. I'm sure you had some things that probably didn't work out. Anything that just really, really fell apart on you and you had to recover and make it better?
Not really anything that was too bad.
Good, good. Well, thank you for sharing. And what we'll do now, please unmute yourself if you have a comment and I don't see a hand. Okay. Everett, thank you so very much. And up next will be Jeannie Martinez. And Jeannie, would you like to see if your mic and your screen works?
I think it works.
Yeah, I can hear you and I can see you, so that's awesome. Everett,
Can you see my screen?
Yes, I can. And Everett, Sam just popped on. Everett, thank you for sharing. You are looking sharp. Good work, sir. So we do have people popping in and out and leaving chats, and I will try to make sure you get your chats. And Jeannie, are you ready? I would like to remind everyone again, I am continuously recording these presentations, and I have appreciated you with your mics and your videos on mute. And next up is Jeannie Martinez.
Okay, so I'm Jeannie Martinez, and for my Genie Star project, I made drawing tutorials. Okay, so when I first got this idea to make drawing tutorials, I knew I needed a plan. So my plan was to do one video every 2 weeks, so 10 videos in total. I was able to get this goal. I was going to put my videos on PowerSchool, but unfortunately, I was not able to. Okay, so I needed to get my materials. You may think, okay, colored pencils and paper, that makes sense, but an art easel, a phone, and yarn. Well, what I did, I wrapped the phone in yarn, and then I attached a piece of the yarn to the easel so it was at an angle so I could film my drawing videos. Okay, so research. You may think you need to do research on finding drawing things. Yeah, I did. So this actually took me a while to find a good website to use, but I used drawinghowtodraw.com, and also Pinterest, which helped me find ideas. Okay, so due to COVID-19, I had to come up with a new plan because I hadn't quite figured out how to get my videos up because, well, yeah, I haven't quite figured it out yet. So this really set me back a lot because I am a visual person, so I needed to be with Thomas and to get my videos up. Okay, my drawings. So I practiced this and the volume didn't work, so I'm just going to. These are some of my best drawings. So yeah. This is my last drawing video. I did draw this in advance, but I talked about how you can make a kind of a collage, but something like that. So yeah, that was my last video. Then that was Pascal from Rapunzel hanging on the WhatsApp logo. I found this idea on Pinterest, and yeah. And then Eeyore, this was actually my second drawing, but I really liked it. And Mulan, this was my third to last drawing, and I really liked it, and I did half because, well, she's like half her normal day self and then half a regular person. Okay, my goal was to create good drawing video tutorials for kids that was easy to access. I did not reach my goal. I might pursue this project, maybe just the video making part because I really want to figure it out. What I would do next time, follow my plan more and really try and get my videos on there. What I learned, stick to plan and don't get frazzled very easily because I got very frazzled. So yeah, thank you. Any questions? How do I get out of it? Okay.
Jeannie, that was so interesting. And you know, my first thought I would love to have the videos that you have created or even partially created and put them in our lower school Moodle so kids can use them, and maybe even over the summer. That would be so much fun. I know my granddaughter loves drawing videos. I loved how you took a passion of yours and extended it into your project.
Yeah.
Well done. Well
Thank
done.
you.
Okay, questions, compliments, comments for Jeannie?
I have one. It's Regan.
Thank you.
So, Jeannie, your project overall was really, really good.
Yeah.
So, were there certain things that you really liked to draw, like without looking on Pinterest or any of those other things that you just knew from the start you wanted to draw?
I really like to draw animals and Disney things. I really like Disney, so that's why I drew only Disney things. I usually like to draw animals, but I've been starting to draw humans, so yeah.
Cool.
Mason, I don't know, you had your hand up. Do you have a question or comment? He's in a call. We have a chat comment, nice work, from Vanessa Juleson. And any others? Comments, compliments? We're seeing a budding artist right before our eyes. Okay. Please just unmute your mic if I did not call on you and you have something to say. Okay. Jeannie, best wishes as you continue with your art. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we will move. I'll take a moment, and up is Mason. No, it's Robert. Robert, you are up. Do you want to go ahead and unmute?
Yep.
And your video. Hi, young man.
Hello.
I don't get to see you very much. It's nice to see you today. And I can hear you. I can see you. Does everybody need to just stretch for 15 seconds? And also, if I do not call on you for a comment or question, you can also put it in the chat and I will ask it. And just for those of you that may not know, on the team bar, it has a hand, and if you click it, it will raise, and then when you're done, you just click it again and it'll raise down. Okay. Once again, I am recording this session from start to finish. Those are our privacy rules. So Robert DeForest is ready to present. Welcome.
All right. So, can you see it?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. So, I'm Robert DeForest, and my project was running a half marathon, which is 13.1 miles. So, I'm going to start with a little story. When I was a kid, I was pretty lazy. I didn't like doing a lot of things. But one day, I went on a run with my brother, and I really did enjoy it. So I started running a little bit more, and that's sort of what led up to this year's Genius Hour project. So where did I start out? I started out going shorter distances, and I was going pretty slowly. I have two of my earlier runs, as you can see on here, 3 miles or so, and these were easy runs, but as you can see, I was going pretty slow. So I selected my very first training schedule, and I'll give you a closer up look of this in a minute here, but I just want to say this worked at first because it eased me into running more frequently, but it started becoming less effective when I wanted and had to run longer distances. So here's a closer up look at that, and there, as you can see, I had Monday and Friday off, and I had other things on the other days.
Robert, I'm not getting your video. I'm sorry to interrupt. I'm not getting your video.
Oh, you can't see my PowerPoint?
We cannot see it. I'm
Oh.
sorry to interrupt
Oh.
you. There it is. Okay, now we got it.
Okay, sorry. Should I start over or just keep going?
Would you mind going back to just show the slides of the ones
Oh,
before?
all right. So I have my title slide, my next slide, this one, one, this one, and then I'm up to this one. Sorry about that. So may I continue?
Yes, thank
All
you.
So toward the end of Genius Hour, I was planning to do the Wandermere Half Marathon, but obviously due to COVID, I had to do my own, which I ran on the South Hill. And to prepare for this, I did longer runs such as quarter marathons, which are 6.55 miles, 7 miles, and then 8 miles. And you can see here I have a picture of one of my longer runs, which is 7 miles. And then the day of my half marathon, I was actually planning to do 8 miles, but I felt good at 8 miles, and so I decided to keep going. And this was on April 12th. I have a picture here of where I did my half marathon. This is the South Hill, and I averaged a pace of 11 minutes and 14 seconds per mile, which I was happy with. And I actually put my splits in here, and you can see I got faster with the miles because I was planning to go really easy, but then it turned out I was going to do the whole thing. So my motivation throughout, it was good during fall, and then it sort of fell apart during winter due to other activities and limited daylight after school, but then it was back on track during spring. What I learned along the way. So the 3 most important things I learned were that you have to work hard for some of the things you want to achieve, and that 13 miles is a lot longer than it actually sounds. You can do that fairly fast with driving, but it takes a lot longer to run it. And you have to be consistent with your training, or else you're just going to fall behind and you're not going to progress at all. Original objective versus what was accomplished. I accomplished everything I set out to do. I am more fit and healthy than I was at the beginning of the year, and obviously I can run faster, and I did my actual half marathon with a pace that I was happy with. So challenges. As I said during my motivation throughout, other activities and schoolwork were a problem because I didn't have time to go running, and also limited daylight during the winter. So for the future, I am definitely going to continue running. However, I'm probably not going to do my next Genius Hour based on running. And so I hope to do more projects like this in the future, just not Genius Hour. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, Robert, and I'm really glad you went back on your PowerPoint slides. I have a question about your lessons learned. You named 3 of them, the work hard and longer than you thought for 13 miles and the consistency. Can you see how you would apply those 3 characteristics to life in any other capacity as you move forward?
Oh, yeah. Well, of course, you have to work hard for anything that's good or anything that you want.
Right.
And also, you have to be consistent. Yeah, you have to continue working hard for anything that you want. That's, I guess, how I would apply them to life.
Well, I know that you participated in the 5K fun run, and did your training help you with that?
It did. It did. I was a lot faster than I was last 5K.
Well, congratulations. And we have a question, comment from Simon. Did you have one?
Yeah, Robert, are you going to do it this fall if they reschedule it, the Wandermere Half Marathon?
I might. I haven't really been training for the half marathon anymore, so I'll probably be a lot slower. But that's definitely a possibility. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Okay. Anybody else? Please just jump on your mic. I don't see a hand that's raised. I may be missing it. Okay. Robert, thank you very much for your presentation and for all your hard work and consistency getting out there, pounding the pavement.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, at this time, we will have Mason. Would you like to make sure your mic and your video is ready to go? Let's test that out. You're doing double duty today. Oh, I know you. How you doing, Austin?
I'm good. How are you?
Well, I'm doing well, thank you. And it's always so much fun to see former lower school kids. Wish I had you, Mason, but I didn't. So it looks like, can you test out your PowerPoint or whatever you're going to put up there?
Yep.
Just to make sure.
I think this is. Can you see that okay?
I can. Lightsabers, all right.
All right. Should we start presenting?
I'll give you just. Okay, I need to remind everyone once again, in case you're jumping on, that we are recording this presentation as we will throughout the whole morning of presentations. And I now welcome Austin and Mason.
Thank you. Okay, so my name is Austin, and I did my Genius Hour project with Mason. And our project was to build model lightsabers similar to the ones that you can get at Galaxy's Edge in Disneyland. So our project was to make 2 lightsabers similar to the ones at Galaxy's Edge, which is the Star Wars area in Disneyland. We wanted to do something based off of Star Wars, and we got this specific idea from Mr. Melka's lightsaber that he made there. So it took us a while to think of what we were going to do for Genius Hour, and we agreed on this. And while it would have been easy just to make the outside or the shell of the lightsaber, which is kind of what you see in the picture, we wanted to have it be more complex than that. So originally, I think we discussed having it make noise when you turned it on. But in order to do that, you would have had to program the sounds and put like a speaker in there, which would have made it twice as big as it is. And so we kind of scrapped the idea. We made these lightsabers using PVC pipe for the base, and we made the outside pieces by 3D printing them. We also made a bunch of wires in an LED light board that we programmed in Arduino, which is a type of code. The blade was made out of a clear plastic tube with a 3D printed piece at the top to end the blade. We designed the outside pieces ourselves through a program called Tinkercad, which you can which you can find through Google. And the electronics we used were ones that Mason found online and ordered. So I mentioned before that we didn't know what we were going to do for Genius Hour for a while, and during that time we were kind of hovering around the idea of doing something based off of Star Wars. And once we chose to build lightsabers, we immediately started designing them. Once we had the designs done, all we had to do was wait for the parts to ship. And this is around the time when the quarantine started due to COVID. But it didn't really affect our project because we were stuck waiting anyways. So this is a question that I have been asked in my previous Genius Hour projects, and a lot of other people have been. So our inspiration came from us both being huge Star Wars fans, and also from our teacher, Mr. Melka, and our friend Brody, who both went to Disneyland, and when they went there, they went to this, I don't know what's it called, but they went to Galaxy's Edge and they built their lightsabers there. And we wanted to do the same without having to go to California or Florida, which are the 2 places in America that have Disneyland or Disney World. All right, Mason.
So we learned a lot of stuff over this process, but the most important things that we learned were how to code Arduino and designing in Tinkercad. But the most important thing above all was to not procrastinate. So, of course, the quarantine started and we had to wait a while for shipping and stuff. And that really set us back a lot. And we worked really hard over the last month to do it. But overall, we did pretty good. So I don't think that we would do anything differently because we did make both models and they both turned out really well because of how long we spent designing and building on them and all the work that we put into making them how we wanted them. So we can use the coding and designing in the future because we both do robotics, and so we can use to make the robot next year and to solder and all these different life skills that we have. Next. So our original objectives were to build 2 working lightsaber models, and the results were that we did complete both models mostly. So the top model on the right is my lightsaber, and then the bottom one is Austin's lightsaber, and they work pretty good, though there are some difficulties that we are working out still. So there's a lot of problems, but the main 2 is that the 3D printer, it broke halfway through our project, so we couldn't print any more sleeves or parts for the lightsaber, which was a huge part of our project. So we had to fix that, and with the help of my brother and my dad, we got that fixed and were able to get our project back on track. And also, neither of us knew how to code in Arduino, so we had to learn how to do that via like YouTube videos and articles and stuff. And we actually learned how to do that and wrote our own code to make the lightsabers. So our main 3 triumphs and successes over the course of the thing were we made the sleeves at the beginning, and that was the big part, was designing what we wanted and printing them and putting them on PVC pipe and looking at it and saying that's pretty cool. And of course, getting the coding and lights to work, because that's the main part of a lightsaber, is that the light part. And as you can see around the side of this slide, those are the colors that you can get out of it. And then, of course, finishing the lightsaber, getting to swing it around and mess around with it and really seeing what it actually feels like, and it's pretty cool. So if we were to continue this project, we probably wouldn't. There's not a lot of directions that we can go, but we were at the beginning. We were also thinking you can make a double-bladed lightsaber, maybe, or something else. But we made our lightsabers to be customizable. So literally anything you print that has a circle in the center that is the right size, you can slide on top of these tubes and make any combination of lightsaber that you want. So at the beginning, I made a bunch of different sleeve combinations and things in this program for 3D designing that we could print and make our own lightsabers again. I'd like to thank all these people down below for helping me and Austin through this process. And thank you all for listening. Are there any questions?
Mason and Austin, I am just absolutely flabbergasted at your skill level here. And I'm glad you answered my question about your inspiration come from Star Wars. But my question is your training. Had you been doing makerspace and robotics, and so you had some of those initial skills to even attack this? Where did you get that, or did you just jump in and do a complete learning on this? So where did you get your initial skill set to even start this?
I mean, I'd say that there was definitely some stuff that we learned in robotics that helped. I personally didn't do makerspace. I know Mason did, so that probably helped when 3D printing, because we both have 3D printers and mine just hasn't been working, so he actually 3D printed all the sleeves, and thanks for that, Mason. So yeah, I think that, I don't know, maybe, I'm pretty sure that helped him.
Yeah, I was wondering if you had to use the school 3D, all the makerspace equipment, but you used your own.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
And the coding, I've done a little bit of programming for robotics, but the stuff we did for the lightsabers was completely different. So I mean, there's some basics of coding that you can kind of use between different methods, or well, not methods, but different forms, I guess. And so that helped a little bit, yeah.
So are you going to make them and sell them?
We were actually talking about that yesterday.
Okay, I will definitely open it up. Vanessa has a chat. She wasn't able to see all the pics because I'm at work, but Austin, did you show the actual lightsaber? It's pretty cool.
Well, I have it right next to me, so
Can
if
you
I have
show
the time, I might as well.
Vanessa?
So here it is. Here's the 3D printed part. And I can do a little bit of a demonstration. So basically, how we have them is you can take the back piece off, and there's a little USB. And yeah, sorry. If you have just
Move
a
it a
battery
little
pack.
bit towards your face.
Yeah.
So there it is.
Yeah, sorry. So I'm just trying to put this together really quick. If the USB is gonna. Yeah. So basically, it runs off of a wireless battery pack. Mason made one for his that he could possibly fit inside. So then once you do that, it lights up, and then you click the buttons, and it looks a lot better when it's dark. And then, yeah.
Really cool.
Yep.
I'm sure we have some questions, comments, compliments, and please, I don't see hands, but if you have something to say, just unmute and speak up. Anybody? Let me get to my participants then. Anybody like to say something to these inventors? You're absolutely amazing. Okay. Okay, don't be shy, you guys. Or maybe they're trying to speak and I'm, okay. We have a, Foster says, nice job, guys. Chase Foster, thank you very much. Well, I like the idea that you're thinking about all the different modifications and extensions you can do with this lightsaber. Your imagination is continuing, isn't it? Okay, well, when I go to the next toy shop and see your product online, I know you've kept at it. Okay, thank you. I don't see anything. Last call if you have a comment, question. Thank you very much. And we will get the next person up, and that will be Regan Heller. And Regan, at this time, do you want to test your mic and your video? Okay, you're frozen on my screen.
Oh, okay. My camera's been having some difficulties.
Mine was freezing this morning for a moment, but go ahead, because we want to make sure we get your screen. Take whatever time.
Hello?
Hello?
Oh, I had a question about the last project. Just my computer wasn't working, so I had to close
I'm
the
sorry.
VLC.
Please go ahead, and I hope Mason and Austin are still around. Please speak up.
I have two questions. One, if you didn't have your prior knowledge from like robotics and makerspace, do you think it would have been as easy or harder to complete your project?
Well, I would say there would be more things that we'd have to figure out, but I think that we would still be able to complete it.
Yeah, I agree with what Austin said.
Good question.
Another question I have is, I was wondering, since you have that USB import, could you like make it so you could download custom sound fonts into your soundboard, or was it like set in stone what it sounded like?
Well, we didn't have a soundboard, and one of our plans was to have one, but I don't think we would be able to fit it inside the lightsaber. But I think you could possibly do it with custom lights. I don't know, Mason. You'd have to.
There is a possibility for that, though. The actual part of putting a soundboard into a little 1-inch tube is not very easy, and we already crammed a bunch of wires in there, so probably not, but maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you for your comments.
Can you guys see my screen, my PowerPoint?
Yes, Regan, I can see your PowerPoint, and I saw you, and I can hear you. So,
Okay.
are you ready to begin? And once again, I am recording the presentation. Okay.
Okay,
Regan Heller, thank you.
just a sec, my screen's loading.
Okay.
Okay, so my name's Regan Heller, and for my Genius Time project, I chose to study how music therapy helps people recover from traumatic brain injury. So I hope you enjoy my project. So what is TBI? So TBI is an acronym for traumatic brain injury, and it's a brain injury that occurs when the head violently hits or strikes an object. So how many people does TBI affect? It is estimated that 1.5 million Americans have TBI each year. So how do people treat TBI? So there's a lot of different ways to treat TBI for different therapies like physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech and language therapy, medicine, social support, and music therapy. So what is music therapy? Music therapy is an established health profession in which music is used in a therapeutic relationship to address physical, emotional, cognitive, and social needs of individuals. So here's a bit more about music therapy. So first of all, what are music therapists? So music therapist's job is to help guide patients with the correct music to recover. So for different patients, there is different music they can use to help them recover better. And they help patients feel the beat and get connected with the music for different ways that music can help them recover. So what are some music therapist techniques? So first of all, imagine if you had TBI and you couldn't talk because it affected your brain in that way, and you wanted something or you needed something and you couldn't tell anyone about it. That'd be pretty stressful. So music therapists can use calm music to soothe patients because it's pretty stressful if you can't talk or something like that. And then music therapists use creative music to help people express themselves. So here's some of the benefits of music therapy. So music therapy involves higher cortical areas and subcortical areas of the brain to produce and process music, and engages all cognitive functions, and it activates neurochemical activity in the brain. So what chemicals does music therapy release? Science has proven that music releases mood-enhancing chemicals into our body, and music therapists can capitalize on this chemical movement to help patients recover better. So dopamine and endorphins are released by music therapy. Here's a bit more about the chemicals. So endorphins are a tiny neurochemical, and they're released by your body, and they make you feel good. So they can also be called the happiness hormone, and they're released in response to pain and stress. They reduce pain and they boost pleasure. And then dopamine is a type of neurotransmitter. So your body makes it, and your nervous system uses it to send messages between nerve cells. So how COVID-19 affected my project. So the coronavirus is a big negative thing, and it impacted our lives all in different ways. But for me personally, it's a big learning experience. It was a big independence builder because with your teacher not there giving you direct instructions, it was different because my mom would be helping my brother all the time, and I'd just be on the other side of the island trying to figure it out. And then it also gave me a lot of time to foolproof my project and make it the best that I can be. So some problems along the way and how they were solved. So one of my biggest problems was trying to find a good website with the right information. So it's one thing to have a good website, and it's another thing to have one that gives you good articles and things that'll actually help you. So I tried a lot of different websites, and eventually I found this one called DuckDuckGo, and it doesn't track searches. It's full of awesome information, and it's kid friendly. So it really helped me. In some of the more difficult, challenging websites, there were areas where you could click on a word that you didn't know or something, and then it would bring you to a definition, and it was a pretty awesome search engine. So thanks for watching. Does anyone have any questions?
Oh, thank you, Regan. Well, first of all, I thought of Judy Halfso because she had originally started out in music therapy. And Regan, my future goal for you is I hope that you pursue this into music therapy. I know it's being used more and more, and it's very helpful. Do you have plans to maybe pursue music therapy?
Yeah, so I was going to start it this year, and I don't think I'm going to use it for a Genius Time project. I'm just going to keep doing it. My original plan was to get some background information and try to make a music therapy program at St. Luke's to help people with TBI to recover. Mm-hmm. And when COVID happened, that kind of put a blocker in that plan. So I hope to pursue it near the future.
Do you have you had opportunities previously or have watched people going through music therapy? For example, how were you aware of this opportunity?
Well, I play an instrument, so I really like music, and my dad's a brain surgeon, so he helped me find a lot of this information, and he told me about music therapy.
Oh, well, I can't wait until you can get out into the hospitals and actually see it being done. I'll open it up for comments, compliments, questions. And please let me know if I am missing your hand. I don't see any at this time. You can also chat me. Are there any questions? Oh, I could go on. Regan, I was most impressed with the research that you found. And I do think that this is an area that's going to open up more and more because it is so beneficial to so many people. And I hope that you pursue a field in this.
Thank you.
And please shout out if you have a comment, question, or compliment. I know, I think COVID-19 really put the brakes on a lot of projects, and you had to kind of reroute your study and your project, and hopefully it didn't derail you too much, Regan. Okay, any chats? I don't believe so. Congratulations, Regan, you did a very fine job.
Thank you.
And at this time, please let me know if you have a comment. I'm going to turn it over to our last presenter, and it is Tristan Vogel. So Tristan, would you like to get your video on and your mic on?
I have a question.
Yes,
Is my camera necessary? Because currently my my trackpad isn't working on my computer, so I have to use an external mouse, but my webcam is also external, and I can't use them both at the same time.
You know what, Tristan? Whatever works best for you. I'm for that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Okay.
So we're gonna.
As long I can hear you well. Oh.
Wait, hold on. I gotta.
I just got it. I just got your video.
Let me do something real fast.
Okay. Take your time. You've spent so much time on these projects. I don't want you to feel rushed and having to get it up there and do it wrong. I'm so proud of all of you.
Here we go.
Okay.
So my name's Tristan, and I did WestCon on Cuba. And Cuba is obviously my country of interest, and I chose it because it's very interesting because it lives 60 years in the past compared to the U.S. Since it had trade borders around it, so things couldn't come in. The U.S. did that, so there's 60 years in technology behind us, so it's like a completely different world there. And it's got a population of 11.34 million people, and its population density of 102 people per square kilometer. It's 64% white, 26% Mestizo, and 9% Afro-Cuban. The major languages spoken in Cuba is mainly Spanish. Basically, everyone speaks Spanish there, and it's Roman Catholicism for the major religions, kind of like Spain. So my ride wasn't a dark ride, so I didn't include that. Mine's an outdoor ride, so that is not included in my presentation. I'm creating a pavilion. Designing my pavilion, my story was outside knowledge and its dangers, because people who come into Cuba, tourists, are very limited on what they can say because of how in the past Cuba is. So my story is about people who are in Cuba who know things they shouldn't, and that's kind of how what the story is centered around. My color palette is red, yellow, black, blue, and white, very vibrant colors because Cuba is very vibrant in its buildings. And the sounds that would be in my pavilion was the street sounds of Cuba. They play a lot of music in Cuba. Spaniards really like music, and it's played a lot. There's always a street band. And bargaining is a very large part of Spanish culture, so that'd be included. And in the top left here, this is my my layout. So right here is a grocery, which would serve as a restaurant, because Cuba is also not very wealthy, since its grocery stores are barely ever fully stocked, so they wouldn't have many people going to restaurants. And here's a souvenir market. It's a cigar sign and an alleyway, and then the garage right here, the museum, because their car culture is very interesting. I'll get to that later. And this is the beginning of my ride. The architecture and landscape of Cuba is Latin and Spanish. It's a very Spanish place, very bright colors, and not many plants. It's really crowded, as you can see from the street view. It's all buildings, so there's not like any vegetation there. So this is my mood board. I wanted to portray a feeling of like crowdedness and damp and like claustrophobia in a nutshell. So I tried to include like some alleyways and you know, storms and whatnot, because this you see this a lot for Cuba's, like this Welcome to Cuba, but this is one street, and if you look at multiple pictures, it's just the same buildings over and over again, when most of Cuba is actually a really rundown place. Designing my attraction. The ride, I chose a car chase for my ride, because Cuba's car culture is very special to its own. Since it's 60 years in the past, it has those same cars, and it's really interesting to see a whole nother world in a different aspect from ours. And it emphasizes the lack of knowledge of outside affairs, since that's the only cars they get. They don't get any modern cars there. So this is my storyboard. I wanted to portray a feeling of thrill and excitement in my ride because it's a car chase, and I want you to feel like you're doing something that, you know, the government doesn't want you to. So it's a little worrisome. I want to have a lot of curves and going in between streets and a lot of tight corners for my ride, because that's what Cuba's like. It's very constricted and small. So this is my scale model of my project. Right here, as you can see, there's a fallen building because Cuba is very, it can, in some places, it can be very run down. There's a car here, which is going to be my ride, and then my ride is one car and two police chasing it. And these are all the Cuban buildings with a bunch of different colors, as you can see. So some lessons I learned in my project is about the Cuban people, because a lot of what you see as a tourist and online is not at all what it's like there. It's, as you can see from this picture in the background, it's very run down and kind of sad. I had very little problems with my story, because my first idea is what I went with the whole thing, so I only had to do it once. And it was really easy for me, because Cuba is like a pretty basic laid out place, because it's 60 years in the past. You can just look at history and then figure out Cuba, so it's not like it's constantly changing. It's kind of consistent, so it's easier to figure out. And it's been all my original idea. So yeah, that's my project. Any questions?
Tristan, I am so appreciative of this Webcot projects, because it really is a whole different idea that I haven't been familiar with. Your question at the very beginning about outside knowledge and its dangers, were you thinking more that the dangers are that people don't have the real authentic truth of Cuba, or is it that the Cubans don't have a real authentic knowledge of the world outside of them?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like the dangers of one person knowing about the outside, that brings them like, because that's not really allowed in Cuba, so they could experience very terrible things because of what they know. And also the dangers of, you know, finding these things out and thinking that your whole entire life is wrong is like completely, it's very touchy and very dangerous.
Because there's been such a disconnect for so many years, for decades, and now trying to put Cuba more into the global world. And I thought your idea about that one common street, that's what everybody sees in the cars, and then you take one block over, then that's the real, that's a reality, isn't it? And that's the knowledge that's not out there. I'm looking for those that would like to raise your hand for compliments, comments, and we have Mason.
Nice job, Tristan.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mason. Got to get this one out. Anyone else like to make a comment? You know, Tristan, Brad Kirsch went to Cuba with his family last year for the Hannah Joss Award, and he had some very insightful things to say about Cuba. Have you had an opportunity to talk with him?
He came in into Mr. Melka's class once and talked about Cuba a little bit. So
yeah, it was a very interesting, authentic point of view from what he really witnessed, and it was very refreshing. Any other comments, compliments, questions for Tristan? Well, you guys have all, with this Westcott projects, have really informed me about a wonderful way of learning. I like the models. Any other questions? Okay. Well, Tristan, thank you very much. At this time, it concludes our presenters, and handshakes to all of you for your contributions, your hard work getting to this point, and then getting in front of a screen. I'm sure it took much more time than had you been in the Genius Fair, Webcott Fair, just at the school building, and I appreciate all of your efforts. For those of you that attended as guests, thank you very much. And this is the end of our Student Showcase Extravaganza. Thank you. And I'm looking, I don't have any other chats. So thank you very much, everyone.